Hi, folks. This is Don Meisner with the North Country Fishing Report. You know, this doesn't sound like it's about fishing, but when I come across things I'm blessed that I have the opportunity to share some of my thoughts with all of you that I think is about what makes this area so special. Well, I came upon a report about dolphins. Now, we don't have dolphins here, and that isn't about fishing. They're not even fish, they're animals. But it was about how dolphins communicate. And it made me think about all the other things around us that we observe when we're fishing. And I talk about it, the birds and why they do the things that they do, and the animals and the woodchucks that I see when I go running and I watch what they do when they see me and so forth. And this story on dolphins was fascinating because with scientists really studying this animal as we think of as a fish, it came to their understanding that every dolphin has a distinct personality. More so than a lot of animals, there's such a divergence of personalities within the dolphins, and they communicate in different ways. If they're communicating with another dolphin that they're friendly with or they're close to, then they will communicate by physical contact. They will rub each other. They call it patting each other. If they're more socially shy or they don't know the other dolphin as well, every dolphin has a certain whistle. Each one has a different sound. Every single dolphin has their own whistle. It sounds crazy because we're not dolphin, and so we don't understand their world. But my point is that all the organisms around us and the fish that are under the water, granted, they're not animals, they're fish, but they're living organisms that live in groups. They live and survive and often die in their groups, just as people, just as animals do. And within those groups, there's a level of communication, of understanding, and a lot of times we don't understand. And I think of it in terms of what I see with fish. I got to tell you, one of the last days that I was fishing a pond for northern pike, it's just a few days ago, and I noticed certain patterns that I think is really important. And those patterns involved not so much what the fish were doing with me, but what they were doing with each other. As I would fish for northern pike, and I have certain areas that I know they move into. And I might fish that same area, waiting, standing there, motionless, for 15 or 20 minutes and nothing. And then all of a sudden, I would catch 2 or 3 or 4 northern pike. And it wasn't that all of a sudden they said, to heck with it, we're going to hit that lure. No, it was that these fish were moving in groups. So probably for that 15 or 20 minutes when I didn't have a strike, there was no group of fish there. There was nothing. They weren't seeing my bait. And then a group that were hanging out together moved in. They responded to what each other did. In other words, they maybe became competitive with each other. They saw one strike, and so the other one wanted to strike. And bam, bam, bam. I had luck that was just fantastic for a little while. And then it suddenly ended. And, you know, it taught me so many lessons. And I'm constantly trying to learn. I don't care how old you get or how young you are. Every time you go out on the water, you can learn something if you observe and you think almost outside yourself. What are these fish doing? What is making this something special for them? I told you in another report how some days all of them would strike the same. They'd bump it, but they wouldn't get it in their mouth. They'd all decided that on that day they were going to bump the lure. In other words, they were going to keep their mouth closed and they were going to go up and just see what it was by touching it. And, you know, fishing is wonderful. It's fabulous. It's fabulous in all the things it does for me and it can do for you. But it also gives us a chance to experience how other organisms live in the world around us. Something that I think so many people are isolated from today. They don't get a chance to see it. The world around them is just a picture on the wall. They don't engage and enter into it. And when we go outdoors and we leave our cell phones behind, and whether we're going down a trail and looking at birds singing, whether we're walking through the water or fishing like I do, or whatever we might be doing, it puts us in a different frame of mind and it puts us in a different frame of existence. Until next time, folks, this is Don Meisner with the North Country Fishing Report.